Today we are going to make bowl cozies and hot pads with coordinating fabric, all from a fat quarter. Hi, it's Lynn with Soft Squares. I'm going to show you how to make 2 hot pads and 2 bowl cozies using just 2 fat quarters. It's also layer cake friendly, but you can get all the material for both of these with 1 fat quarter of each of the 2 colors that you want, and then just some accent fabric, batting, Insulbright, sewing machine. But I'm going to show you how to make this. These are 2 different bowls here, and I am giving these as gifts. So the plan is that the same person will get both of these and both of these. You could do it however you want. You can make them all the same if you want. You will need 2 9-inch pieces of fabric for your bowl cozies. Each bowl needs 2. Then you'll need 2 pieces of fabric for one and 2 for another. You can make them coordinate or do the same, but that right there is one, and here is the second one. And so the fabric is 10 by 10, the batting is 9 by 9, and you need 2 for each bowl cozy. For the hot pads, you're going to need 2 8 by 8 squares for the body of the hot pad. And we're doing everything in 2s here so that there's a coordinating color, so everything's going to be opposite. Okay, so your body, you need the front and the back, and you can mix up your fabrics however you want. You do need inside that a piece of batting the same size and a piece of Insulbright the same size, and this is the stuff that is reflective that makes it so you can touch hot things. So, and then you're going to layer them just like this. And my hot pads have a pocket on them, and there's enough fabric out of a fat quarter to get that. So I'm going to make mine this way, and I did not have enough to make the back. So what I've done is I pulled an accent color out because I'm going to put a little binding around these, and I'm using the color that I'm using on the binding to be on the back side of my pocket, because you won't see it, and if you do, you won't even notice because it blends into everything else. But these are 8 by 5. Okay, so you need 2 pieces of fabric for that. And whether this is part of your line or not, it doesn't matter. The front doesn't have to match. It can even be pieced, okay? But you need the finish size to be 5 by 8. The back is 8 by 8. And then you're going to need 1 strip of 2.5 inch by width of fabric for your binding for each one of these. You're also going to need, with the case of me, taking from a fat quarter, I didn't have enough to do the backs of these. This is a 5 by 8 piece, so you're going to take that from your basic color, or however you want to take it. But you're also going to need these, which are little tabs, and they are also 5 inches by 1.5. You can make them a little wider by 2, but you're going to fold it in half and then fold it again, and it's going to be quite small when you're done with it. I can't do it right now, but you'll see what it looks like. And that's for our tabs for hanging. So that's going to go up here. And then I'm going to show you 2 ways to finish off your pocket. One is going to use the same fabric as your binding. So it'll look like this, then with the green that goes around it. It looks really cute, ties everything together. And I'm going to show you another way where you don't have any binding up there, it's just an enclosed seam. So you're going to need at least 10 inches by width of fabric of a coordinating fabric to make it the way I am making it. If you use a different fabric on the back, then will change your numbers a little bit. Okay, so we're going to make 2 matching cozies, 2 matching hot pads, and took it all from a layer cake. So I'm going to show you how I cut up the layer cake to get this out of it. I wanted to point out I used Insul-Bright on the pocket. So 1 piece of fabric or batting right here should be enough. You can try to make it thicker if you want, but I would recommend using Insul-Bright here. I call it a pocket, but I'm finding people are using these like mittens or mitts, oven mitts. So this has a chance of being exposed to the hot oven. And so put Insul-Bright here, and or you could try that and batting, but I would recommend putting that there because the way people have been using them. All right, so the way you cut a fat quarter. Okay, you're going to take your fat quarter, and it's best if you get rid of your seams or if you press it. So you can actually leave it folded in half because you're going to get a 10-inch piece here, and you're going to cut 2 of them, and then you're going to be able to get your other pieces down here. Now I'm using a fabric right here that has like a border print. You may want to consider where the lines are going to be if you play with something that is this wide. But a fat quarter should be at least 21, hopefully 22 inches, and you need 2 10-inch squares. So let's see. We are 22, yep, 22 inches by 9. So what we're going to do, I'm actually going to fold it this way. So this was 22 from here to here. All we need is a 10-inch piece. Now it's folded in half, that makes it 11 inches. So we have enough width to get our 10-inch block. And then it's going to come probably down to here. Just depends on, yep, about to here. And then we'll have this much still to play with for our hot pads. Now you're going to be doing this with 2 fat quarters for each set. Or you can just do 1, and that'll be fun too. Now I am seeing there's selvage here. I don't like that, so I'm gonna start this lower so it's not even in my measurement. And from here to here is 10. Okay. I know I don't want the selvage, so I'm just trim that right off there. I think my blade has a nick in it. Okay, over to here. And there's some scrap that you can incorporate maybe in different part of the project as an accent. There's a couple different places where you'll need some small fabric. This could be something you incorporate there. But that is a 10 by 10 block with a little extra. Then we have this long piece right here. Keep it folded over. See if my iron is hot enough. Again, we have selvage down here. We don't want that. But I am making 2 cuts of the same thing, so I'm just gonna leave it doubled. So I'm going to take whatever is left and make the hot pads out of it. In the example, or I show you the step-by-step, I was actually able to get them to be 8 inches. In this case, this is also 8 inches, so we're good. But I need it to be square, 8 by 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you have this left over. This is going to be your pocket on your hot pad. So your hot pad's going to use this and then this. And if you're going to switch it up with different fabrics, you can, you know, there's different options you can do that where you can see it. But with this having a pattern like that, that actually kind of looks cute. And then you just need 2 for your bowl. So out of 1 fat quarter, you can make 1 bowl, cozy bowl, and 1 hot pad. But you still need some accent fabric. So you're going to need about 10. Now this is to do 2. So you're going to need we're going to stick with the 10 inches because it's only 2.5 inches different to add the second one. So between 7.5 to 10 inches by width of fabric is what you need in an accent fabric. So this does not necessarily match this, although it could. But here's the 2.5 inch. And what we're going to do is cut one 2.5 by 5 inch piece that's going to go on the top of the pocket, like that. We also need something for the back of the pocket because we did not have enough fabric to make a backing. So you're going to take a 5-inch strip from your coordinating fabric and then cut it 5 by 8. And if you can make this a little bit wider, adjust it to that. So you're going to do the back in a solid of white or whatever you want, or you could do the accent. It looks really nice. Then you're going to take a width of fabric by 2.5, and that's going to be your binding, and we're going to put a little binding around this. We're also going to make a loop, and this is where you could use this fabric if you wanted to, or you can take from your accent fabric. It needs to be 5 inches by 1.5 to 2 inches, depending on what you want to do. My project ended with a 1.5 inch. It's quite thin, so it's totally up to you. But there's this extra piece right here, and it is plenty wide. So you could very easily make this be that little loop. And what that is we're going to fold it in half, then fold it in so it's completely enclosed, and then do a top stitch. Unless you're brave and want to do a tube, go for it. And so with this being like that with the panel, it's kind of interesting how the blue ended up all on one side, but that you need a 5-inch piece of fabric to do that. Now in this case you can use this fabric. I like to use the accent fabric because then everything that goes around it is tying together, but it's totally up to you how you want to do it. And if you want to do it, you can also use this as decoration on the front of your pocket. Now this is not going to work with this, what we have going on, but if this were like a solid piece, a solid color, or we'll just pretend it's this way, you can put that on there. You can do all kinds of things to decorate the pocket. Obviously that would be more of a straight cut. Play with it, but this is all the waste you have from this fat quarter, is this. Okay, so there's your fabric cutting instructions and the requirements. You're also going to need 2 9x9 square inch batting pieces for your bowl, for each bowl. Okay, so you're going to be using one on each side and then putting them together. Over here you're going to need one 8x8, so it'll be the same size as this. This is going to be 1 inch narrower. This will be the same size, so you need one 8x8 square piece of batting for the back, and it will go between your layers. You also need one piece of Insulbright the same size, and then you'll need to put batting in your pocket. right here. And I would recommend using Insulbright, so 5" by 8" piece of Insulbright right here. So it'd be the same size for these pieces of fabric, and then 1" smaller for this. And then get some matching thread and let's sew. All right, so I had some leftover fabric and I'm going to play with these pocket pieces and show you some different things that I have learned and that you can do. First, I think I'm going to show you 2 different ways to make the pocket. One is the front and the back. In this case, I'm just going to call it the dark green and the light green are the same. You're going to have your batting, or not, sorry, your binding piece like you do with a normal quilt, and roll that over. Okay. The other way is where it is an enclosed seam, and to do that, you line them up this way. And you do this part first for this type of pocket. So I'm going to show you this and compare it to the other. All right, so after you do that, then we're going to do this. Now, I purposefully put the batting in the seam to make it a little thicker. You may want to trim it down. It's totally up to you. But what I'm going to do at this point, before I do anything else, and right now I'm going to not change my thread colors. I want to make it so you can see what I'm doing. Just going to do a straight stitch like that. So this is actually the top of the pocket. You want to have the part that folds over this part on the inside. So really that's the front. And now we can do the decorative stitching or whatnot. So we'll come back to that. And the other one is we're going to start with the decorative stitching and then put our binding piece on, and then it gets assembled to the pot pad, where this is the pocket itself is assembled. So I pulled out these threads that I just purchased and see if I decide I want to use any of these on this. It might be pretty when I'm putting on the binding. I don't know that I want to do it on the pockets because the pockets already have a print for the most part, but it might be kind of pretty to have a little variegated. Actually, that would be this one, huh? Or match it, or have it contrast, whatever makes you happy. All right, so this is where you get to play with your decorative stitches if your machine has them. You can also do other things like rickrack. I would highly recommend doing this through all layers instead of just the top, because you need to quilt this. So I'm just going to do a bunch of different things. And when I get to this point, I like to use clips. And you want to go a little over because it's really frustrating when you're short. And it's probably good to measure. And I think this is a little low down here. So there's rickrack. That's the back side, which is going on the inside. Now let's play with some decorative stitches. My machine has a bunch up here, which are not going to show it very well with the lighting. Okay, this is a little teeny tiny zigzag, which is cute because it's just a kind of straight going across. I was hoping I could get more of a solid, but it wasn't moving. So, but that, I like how this turned out when I changed it. So let's keep playing. There's a wider zigzag. Now, if you're going to go parallel to another line, you don't want this to happen. You want to keep your spacing the same. And I wasn't even paying attention. But I had to make my stitch a little broader. I had the same problem starting on this one too. So I didn't get that solid satin line that I was kind of going for. And it could just be some settings or I'm on the wrong stitch. But there's all kinds of things that you can do like this. There's also the decorative ones. Now that's a fun stitch. It's also a fun one to do over top of lace. I mean, yeah, lace or ribbon. So there's that one. That's a fun little one. so much you can do. You can even spell out words like grandma loves you, or happy new home, or Merry Christmas, whatever. So this is, you can actually do as busy as you want. You can even just do straight stitches, which is something I'm going to do on this one. Follow your guides over here. Keep your fabric straight. Keep your line straight. I didn't do very well. And I don't think you need to worry about tying off your stitches, because this is going to be enclosed in a seam, but it doesn't hurt anything if that's something you want to do. So you could just do something really basic like this, just straight stitches, or even one through the middle. I would recommend just doing something. And if you don't want it to be noticeable, then just blend your thread in. But this will help it when it gets washed. So we're going to pretend that that's it. But that's what we're going to do. And this one, we know I was just playing with the stitches, but it's a pocket. And it shifted on me. So we'll work with that. We're going to take this piece and go around the top of it. I would recommend cleaning this up, but starting on the back. This is what I do with all of my quilts, by the way. I always start with my binding on the back and flip it to the front. And that way I have more control over what is the most noticeable part of the binding. Now I'm going to use my regular foot, the 3/8. Not sure why we had all that, but there we go. That's the back. This is the front. So I'm going to fold it over and then do a straight stitch on top of this. You can also do a fun decorative stitch right here. That really would be cute. And that stitch is showing. So pretend it's a quilt, and when you do that, put thread on the back side. When you attach your binding, that matches the fabric. So if the stitch show up, it would be a dark green and it wouldn't be as noticeable. I'm not quite sure why, but that's what happens. So now my pocket is done and ready to be attached to my hot pad. So I'm just gonna lay it on one and then make a real one in just a second here. So we're gonna actually go through and quilt these. I like to do like just stitches. I don't get too crazy with this. There's like a serpentine stitch that's really cute. But when you're ready and you're done with that part, you're gonna take your pocket right here, and then your binding is gonna go around. And then that's how this pocket comes on. I always reinforce when I come to any part it's gonna have some stress on it. But there's that one, and then this one is like this. It doesn't have the color on the top. So I like this because it's going to be a little pop of color that will match the border. So let's finish making these for real now. And since I have this in my hand and I have this kind of a ivory bone color, I'm actually going to use it on here because I like the contrast, just to give a little bit of color. And the best thing to do with this is to pin this because it's got a lot of layers. Or you can spray baste it, I guess. I do have a machine embroidery, an embroidery machine, and I have some programs where I can quilt it in the hoop and do some things through there. This is just a freehand quilt, which honestly is what I typically do the most. I am gonna do that serpentine, and since this is a square, for me it doesn't matter what direction it goes. If you have a directional print, pay attention, but also keep track of what's the back side, because I put my batting in order of what I wanted. And the thing about this is the back side on this is going to be more visible because your pocket is going to cover most of this. So I want to start sewing on this side because to me this is the front, it's what's facing forward, but this is what's going to be seen is back here. It's kind of up to you what you want to do. I'm still gonna start from the front, I think. This is just me. Now, because I'm doing 2 of the same, I'm gonna do the other. This is a coordinating set, so I'm gonna try to have their stitches be coordinating, their threads to be coordinating. And in this case, I want to just chain stitch, run off of one and onto the other. It'll make it a little easier, especially when you're doing a decorative stitch, and that's why you can also, your spacing the same. Did you see what I just did? And I'm using this line over here. So there's my serpentine. Cute, right? So you can just keep doing them. The thing that's kind of something to think about when you do serpentine is they're not always going to line up. So they're doing this with both, you know, with all the threads together. They're going to kind of do this. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're going through a lot of thicknesses and it's just not pulling. Oh, and I actually see what part of what I'm doing. I don't have my walking foot on here, and I need to have my walking foot. I usually use my Pfaff that has a built-in walking foot. So even though I have a walking foot for this, I wasn't even thinking about it. So there we go. Okay, so I'm just letting it do its thing, trying to keep it straight. And here's the other one. Kind of fun. Okay, so here are my 2 hot pads. They're nice and fluffy. Okay, you can do whatever you want, and I'm just making sets, so I want them to be the same. You don't have to, it's your project. So what I'm going to do now is play with my pockets, and I'm going to leave the same thread in, so this is working really good that I don't have to switch. Although I am going to switch before I put this on. So I do like this type of a pocket. I like the look of all the extra colors, so I don't need to worry about putting that binding on right now. I do want to make this. I might just do something kind of like one serpentine through the middle. Actually, I think I just decided that's what I'm gonna do. You can really dress them up or just do something basic. Look at this, it's coming together. I personally like the lines to go this way. Nothing that says you can't go this way. But this is just what I usually do. And I'm gonna put this up here, I'm gonna trim that off. So it doesn't matter just yet, but this is how I'm laying them out. Okay, so now I want the binding on here, and I am gonna use the white thread to put that on because like with my little example here, you can see where the thread was not the same color. So using the white on here will be perfect, and then switching it when I complete it to whatever I decide for my top stitch for the binding. But there is one more thing that we need to do. Oh, not ready for that. And that is we need to get our iron. We need to fold this and then like this, make our little hook, and we need to give it a top stitch, and you want that thread to match. And then we're going to attach it, and that's before the binding goes on. So we're not there yet. Okay, so these are nice and flat. So I took my 1.5 inch strip, I folded it in half and pressed it, and then I took it and folded the outer pieces in and pressed it. And then I'm going to do a top stitch right near the edge of this. I guess if you really want to turn it, you could make a tube and turn it. But I'm going to do the top stitch. Sometimes I do it on both sides if it's a little bit wider one. It's totally up to you. I am just probably, I don't know what I'm going to do on this one, probably just one. But the main thing is to put the least pretty side on the inside when you get to that point, and then attach it. But while I was at the iron, I thought I would at least press this guy. I'm just going to leave it alone for now and go over to back to this one. So now I like to sew it on the back and bring it to the front. You want to use your 3/8 of an inch foot. The fabric is not always the same on the back as the binding, so that's why this ends up in two pieces, but you really could get away with a longer pieces that's folded up and over. Okay, so now we're going to fold it down, do a top stitch, but I'm going to do that with the right color thread, so I'm not going to do that right now. Just there we go. Okay, so I'm going to put these to the side and see what else I need to do with that color thread, because that's how I roll. I'm going to keep my little sets together, so now there's not as many pieces anymore, but what's left needs to be done in whatever I want for my top stitch, which I usually will have blend into the binding. On this one I'm not going to do that, but this is where you could put like a variegated thread or complementary thread, embroidery thread. I'm going to probably stick with something that blends into the binding. But right now I'm done with those. We're going to go to our full cozy. And I have decided, instead of making them two-sided, I'm going to make one color and one the other, because these are going as sets to families. And this way they don't have two identical bowls, they have two complementary bowls. Did that make sense? So, first thing this says is to take one piece of fabric and one piece of batting. Whoop, wrong side. I don't want it to move. I'm going to give it a little pin. I'm going to try to keep it out of the area where I know I'm going to be drawing. So you'll see what I got going on here. I'm grabbing a pen. But what you do, you get your batting centered. Okay, so we're going to go corner to corner and draw a line. And then center to center, or through the middle, and we want to find that middle. So we know that's the middle, but we also know this is a 10-inch square. So by putting it here, I know I'm going right here. And then we also have a straight line. I wouldn't eyeball this. That's just because of my margin from my ruler. I should put this maybe in a better spot. Okay. So now we have 8 wedges, like a pie. We're also going to do this to the other piece. It says from here, we're going to go out 1 inch and then come down 2.5. So wherever that hits. So this is a really weird ruler. I use it for when I design. It's more of a design. Okay, so we're going to mark the 1 inch, okay, on both sides. Then it's going to come down 2.5. So we're going to, there's the half, there's that 2. Draw the line. And do that all the way around. Now we're going to do a straight stitch following all of the lines that we just did, and then these are darts. Now it says to do this, make a dart, fold it, and then sew along this this line on both, actually on all 4 sides. You do want to knot this off. You probably could just get away with doing one of the lines because it's folded up where you don't see it all. Now we have two bowls that look like this. We're going to take one of them and fold it this way and then nest them like this. Make sure they line up good. Now we're going to sew around with a normal foot 3/8 inch seam, but we're going to leave an opening so we can turn it inside out. All right, I have an opening. Now we're going to make it so we can turn it inside out by trimming the corners. On the darts it says clip up to but not on the seam. I don't know if this is big enough. I went in a little bit from where this point is and a little bit from this point because I wanted the corners. I don't know, we'll see if this is a big enough opening. I have 2-3 inches almost. This is where a turning tool would be helpful. Now it says to press it and do a top stitch along the top, not these other seams, but the joining seam. And I made sure all 4 of my corners were sewn. So what's left is this. So you can baste it, but I'm going to do a top stitch and I'm going to do it right along the edge. I'm going to close it up with that. Now I'm going to do a top stitch. I'm just going to do a very small, scant top stitch to catch that. And then I'm going to do another stitch down. So it's going to look like a double stitch. But I like that look. Okay, there we are with that. I really like the thin little seam at the top, but I'm going to do another one because that will make it stay more crisp and just give it a better edge. So I'm going to go do that. Okay, the bowl is done. So a couple reasons why I like to do this double amount is because it's the way the batting was cut so it would not be in the seam. It was not being picked up at all by the seam, meaning it's kind of free floating through here and I didn't want it to move. So by going down that full 3/8 of an inch, which is the width of the foot, it's catching that batting. So it just secures that better. It also makes it lay a little flatter across the top here. And I think it just gives it a nice finished look. So you can choose to hand stitch and just do the wider stitch. But this is how I made mine. And then I'll show you how to finish the hop hats. It is time to put our hop hats together. So this is going to go with this. And this is going to go with this. But first, I need to stitch these shut. And then we're going to assemble these. And I'll show you how to do it. And I'll go across here before we go any further. All right, so these are done. Now we're going to add this to the back of this. I guess like that is how I'm feeling like doing it today. I'm just gonna do the one at a time. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna come over here and on the very edge of it, so it's definitely within the margin, you're gonna tack this down, but you're gonna do more than tack it, you're gonna like reinforce it. Because this has potential for a lot of stress. It doesn't matter what color thread you use to tack it down, but that's what I had in my machine. Okay, so there's that. I am not liking how much of this is popped out. Let's see. Oh, and I have some wiggle room. This is my foot pedal. I don't have any place else to put it. I promise it's weird. Okay. Here's the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's our middle, our 4 mark. Now I want it to be on there the same way I did this. Okay, so I want to make sure that I am putting them on there the same way. Facing the same way. Does that make any sense? I am ready to assemble my pocket. So we are going to keep this laying down flat. So I'm going to pin it to keep it flat so it doesn't spring up and get in the way, because the binding is going to go over top of that. And it'll be on the bottom for a little bit, so it'll make life easier. Okay. I'm going to make a regular binding. This should be more than what we need. Fold it in half. Start on the back side, which we know is the back side because this is attached back here and pinned down. So, and I usually start with these close to the corner and on the right side. It doesn't matter, just don't do the top or the bottom. And then just keep in mind that the pocket's gonna come on here and be where that's gonna be, just because you're gonna have some bulk and you wanna make it a little easier for yourself. So hopefully that made sense. I feel like everything has shifted on me. This one's okay. Remember, we're going to do the mitered edge, so we need it to be able to overlap. So I did pull it up a little more. But I'm going to start sewing down here. So just like a normal binding, when you get to the corner, do whatever you normally do. I like to go up on a corner angle. Make that pretty little turn there. What I'm doing is making sure I'm actually getting all my edges, because it wasn't an exact, it wasn't real straight. Okay, so now I'm coming up on my little holder, tie holder, And just pretend it's not there. Just make sure it's flat. And out of the way. Now what I do when I get here, I'm going to reinforce it again, because this is going to be a lot of stress on this seam. My stuff does not fall apart. We're up on our last part, so we need to start the corner. Then we're going to do our normal joining, and if you're not sure how to do that, you want more instructions on it, go to my binding video. You'll be able to see what's going on here, but if you want step-by-step, slower instructions, that is a good resource. So I'm just barely coming down here though. So I've gone all the way around and I have made sure that my corners were included in that, and now it's left as this. And now we need a 2.5 inch overlap because this is a 2.5 inch wide binding. So we've got 1, 2.5 right there. So when I put this piece over top of it, I want to cut it at that 2.5 mark or a little shorter. It doesn't hurt to be a little taut. In fact, it's easier to work with than if it's a little loose. And now we're going to make a mitered edge by doing this and doing this. You want to give yourself as much room as you can, and you're going to be folding this guy over. Keep that pinned. I wanted to unpin it, but nope, don't. Make life easier. I have found these are the best for right here because there's a lot going on in a little space and it wants to move. It's time to put our pocket on. Yay! Make sure you have the top where it needs to be. See, I almost did it wrong. There's the top. Here are these. Now, I cut these to be the same size as this, but really at this point you want to trim it down a little bit because it's at least wide enough to go in there, but with the quilting and the slight trimming down over it did over here, this is too wide and it's going to make the pocket kind of bulge. We don't want that. So just trimming a little bit off of here and see if that fits. Looks lots better. Okay, so now we're going to do what we normally do with the binding, where you flip it over from the back to the front. The difference is when we get to where the pocket is, we have to make sure it is included. Okay, this one will work, so will this one. Okay, so put our pocket on there. Again, top is right there. This is the right side of the pocket. That can make a difference too. Now, something that might be fun is I could take, because I've got this coordinating thread, I can do something on the pocket with that coordinating thread. Or a completely different color. It doesn't have to be one that blends in. I was also looking at my little scraps here, thinking I could do something like this on one of them and then do an applique stitch on top. You can even just do them on different angles, different things, because they're a little long. They might get incorporated in one of the other sets. So I am going to, I like to start in the corner. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to start in the lower corner so it's not as obvious if someone should find it. Upper, just stay away from that altogether. And this pocket will try to move on you. There's a lot of layers, and you want to make sure that this is rolled back. If it's rolled in, it's just going to be a problem inside the pocket. Not very often that I have that, but you know, it can happen. I'm actually thinking I might need to trim this a little more. Not a lot, but a little. Okay, I'm going to start right here. I'm gonna lengthen my stitch. I should have done that with the first pass, but for sure you need to do it here. I'm going up to 4.0 because there's so many layers right here. I do this little reinforcement on all my corners, quilts and everything, so this is just a little, kind of a little cross patch you'll see. Now, I didn't think about this until just now, but I like to have this reinforced, but you know, you could reinforce this to the bottom before you get to the part of the binding, so you don't see it, but I'm too late for that. I'm doing my on top of each other just through the binding part up here where it's thick. If you can keep your stitch on top of the others, then it won't be as noticeable what you did. But doing that on the underside, probably a pretty good idea. I've made hundreds of these, like maybe 6 or 7, or probably actually closer to 8, because at one point I did an order of like 200 and then I had, anyway, let's say 800. That's pretty normal, pretty comparable. Anyway, I'm just now figuring that out. That's funny. It's also been a little bit. I used to make these regularly and I haven't, so maybe I'm just forgetting what I did. Yeah, so this is going over, and it's okay, just the way it is. If you know you're going to go over, change your thread. If you can, keep it in your ditch. That's really what you want. So I would, actually I'd say don't worry about changing your thread. I think it's totally fine to have that show up. It's just nice if you can avoid it. Now remember, we're coming up on this tab. I still have it pinned down, but it just got hooked. Now we did a lot of reinforcing when I first put it on. I don't think I'm going to need to do it right here, but if you want to, you can go over, back and forth another time. I just know there's going to be some stress right there. I'm coming up on my end, or where I started. So I started in the fold, bringing this down, making it look pretty. Gonna go around it like a normal corner and then keep going. And then go down a little bit. You could go all the way across it if you want to. This is so little and it probably isn't a bad thing. I think I'm going to do that. You just want to stay in the same place. We're done. Take all of our little pins out. There's the back. It is okay, not perfect, but it's actually pretty normal for back. All right, so here we go. Here's one of our hot pads. You just sew a label in or on the pocket. So this is what my corners look like. They all look like this. I go down, back up, then go across, back up. So they all have this little crisscross. I have always done that, and I just feel it's extra security on a corner. Okay, so I'm going to finish up the other one, and then I'm going to show you how everything looks with both bowls and both pads. Here are our hot pads. So this is a pocket, but a lot of people will use it like this in the oven. So that's why I put Insulbright there. I didn't used to, but it makes sense to do that since people are potentially using it near hot surfaces. So here are my 2 hot pads that are mirror image, or not mirror image, reverse of each other. There's the back sides. So this is where the loop is. It's reinforced in there really good. Okay, and then we have 2 bowl cozies. They were really simple. This is fat quarters. You could do all of this with a fat quarter. I mean, layer cake. I got all of this out of 2 fat quarters, 1 of each color, and just goes to show you how I can make a nice little gift out of just 2 pieces, 2 fat quarters. You could make these a little bit bigger, just adjust everything and use a fat quarter on here and maybe make a 9-inch square instead of an 8-inch square, or go for 10, go big. But you can get the 8-inch hot pad and the 10-inch bowl cozy out of a fat quarter. And so that's what we've got here. So that is it for our cozies and our hot pads. Let me know what you think about this. I know it was a little lengthy, but it'll be worth it because you're getting 2 projects out of this. There's also another video where I specifically show you how to make my hot pads. They are on a little bit bigger scale, a little bit different measurements. These are 8-inch hot pads because that's all I could get out of the fat quarter after I cut out my 10-inch bowls. But you can make them bigger, and that other tutorial will show you how. There's also a binding in here, so there's a binding tutorial that might be helpful for you if you want more information on that. So look for those and let me know what you think about this. Thanks guys, have a great day.